Playing a complex song on the spot is a lot like being the hero in a mental video game. You will encounter unfamiliar landscapes, dangerous creatures such as borrowed chords with qualities you need precious time to think about, life-threatening meter changes, and a chart can be a valuable cheat code that will grant you the superpower of X-ray vision into the fractal matrices of a song. And once you're able to use a chart effectively, you will learn to recognize the common patterns that appear throughout the musical universe. Because songs tend to be a lot like other songs, and even complex songs are like a bunch of tiny, simple songs that expand fractally throughout the hologram of the complex song. And a chart can just become a guide more than the only way you know a song. Once you can do this in your head and you don't need them as much. And in the meantime, as you're learning to get by using a chart and you're not that familiar with it, it's helpful to know some things that you can take out. You don't need to know right away. So charts will appear usually either as letters or numbers. This doesn't represent what every chart will look like that you'll see, especially in Nashville, but this is just generally what you're going to see. And a lot of people think that the letter charts are simpler because you don't have to transpose in your mind every chord, and that can save you some time if it takes you a while to transpose. But if you're really trying to use the chart to understand the true structure of a song, you're going to be translating these letters into numbers in your mind anyway. And so it's debatable which is easier to use. So if I'm reading this chart and I've never seen this song before, I'll think, okay, it's in the key of A and it starts on the A, that's the one, and it's got these little percentage signs, that means to repeat that A for that many bars, and then it goes to the E7, which is the 5, 7, the dominant, and it has that 7 that'll help it lead it back to the 1. So it stays on that 5 for a while, and then it leads back to the 1. And it's got this little repeat sign here that follows back to its mirror up here, so you repeat those 8 bars. And then you go down to the bridge or the chorus here, and it starts on the 4, and a lot of songs do that, so you think, okay, it's doing this thing that a lot of songs do, and you just are interpreting everything you see in the chart as you go, so that you're really learning the song as you do it, and you're not becoming a chart reading zombie as you just stare at it and play whatever you see on the page. And that will help you be a better musician. It'll help you not get lost while you're reading the chart. It'll help you not need the chart. It'll help you look at the audience, engage with the band more. You're not just staring down and not understanding what's leading you along this journey of the song. And so we continue, it goes to the 2 chord. A is 1, B is 2, and the 5, and you think, oh, that's a common turnaround in a lot of songs that came out of the ragtime tradition, the honky-tonk tradition. And this is a AABA form, also common for such songs. And so you would play the A part, which is these 8 bars, then repeat it like it says, then play the 8 bars of the B, and then back to the A, AABA. Here's a little explanation of that up here at the top. And so you're doing the same thing down here with the numbers, and someone says, hey, let's do this song in D. And so you think, okay, the 1 is D, the 4 is G, and you're repeating them, and it's the same thing going on. And so these are really simple songs. And so when you get to slightly more complex songs, such as this song Complicated Gifts by Millie Raccoon, you have some other little symbols you might not recognize, like this triangle, which means major 7. And so usually when you just have the 7 next to here, it's a lowered 7, and this raises it up a half step and makes it a major 7, like the 7 would be in a major scale. And you have a 6, that means you're going to add the 6th note to your chord. And so if you don't know those chord shapes yet, or you don't know on the spot yet what those notes would be, you don't know that that would be a C sharp, you don't have to play those right away when you're first starting out. You'll get by with just playing D and then another D. Just take that out, you're just still in D major. Or take out that 6, you're just playing an A major. And you'll get by, and no one will be that mad if you're just beginning and no one's counting on you really to make this the swing feel that it is. And those are what are adding a lot of the stylistic qualities of the song and the harmonic movement. Here you have some minor chords, those little minus signs. And eventually you're going to want to learn what those are, and in my next video I'm going to help you really analyze chord charts. But for now I'm just telling you the cheat codes for how to do a song on the spot and use a chart just to help get you there and what you can cancel out. So you're never going to want to cancel out the letter. That's always the very first thing. If you play nothing else of this chord, play the C, play the D. That'll get, that's really in the chord. It wouldn't say that if it weren't. And so the little numbers you can take out. And the basic triad is the 1, 3, and the 5. Sometimes it'll say sharp 5. And so in that case, you can, even if you don't know what the sharp 5 is of a chord, you can just take out the 5 instead of playing it. But otherwise, you can just take out that number for now. Here we have a flat, so that's an important part of the letter. And so you'll have to play a D flat there. And we have different meters written up here, so that's going to be important for you to look at, and they're going to always say that at the beginning. Here we have some other little symbols that will vary from musician to musician, but these are things that people will typically use. This exclamation point means a stop, so you stop on that beginning of the measure and stop playing the rhythm. Here you can see this within the same song, there's a meter change, and so you'll notice, okay, it goes to 6/8 here. So this bar, you're still playing 4/4, and then you start playing 6/8, and it has a blank here, so you notice, oh, it only has 7. These are things to listen for. You're listening to the song, listening to the person leading it, and noticing things as you go along. And some other things, people will sometimes come up with a creative way to make their chart simpler. And you definitely want to include everything that's going to come up in the song, but the fewer pages, the better. The fewer things written on the page, the better, because people need to just effectively go through this. And so this song, for example, has a different chord progression slightly at the last time around of the song than it does normally. So the regular song is in black, and just the last time through is the red part that's written there, and that way you don't have to have a whole other page that is going to tell you. So those are some creative things. And something else I like to think about when I'm just getting through chords and chord changes is often with the harmonic movement of a song, just one note of the chord is changing. And here's an example. In this common ragtimey turnaround, we have the 4, because we're in B flat, so we have E flat. That's the regular natural major 4. And then it goes to the sharp 4 diminished. That's a really common turnaround. And all that's changing between the E flat major chord and the E natural diminished chord is the first note. And so really you're just taking that 4 chord and moving the first note up 1/2 step. And so here you have E flat, G natural, and B flat. And then here you have E natural, G natural, and B flat. The 3 and the 5 stay the same. And so that may look like a complicated change, but really you're just moving one note over. And so especially if you're playing an instrument that doesn't have preordained, dedicated chord shapes, you've got to think about what's in the chord, like if you're playing violin and you're trying to play rhythm with it. And so the most important thing is just to really learn to analyze it, and when you're not playing on the spot and you have some time to analyze some songs at home and take your time, it's a good idea to take your chart and write down the number of the scale that each chord is starting on, and just basically translate it from the letter chart into the number chart, and then you'll understand what pattern is coming up throughout it, and even write what the different notes are in the different triads and chords, so that you'll get much more familiar with what tends to come up and what's in all of those, and know these songs much more inside and out, and the charts will not be what is dictating you and carrying you along. They'll just be a very vague guide, because I think it's a lot better to have this in your mind and be interacting with the world a lot more than being glued to your chart. That's my opinion. Thanks for listening to it.